Imagine standing in the middle of a city, silent, flattened, reduced to nothing but ash and rubble. The smell of burning lingers in the air. The horizon is nothing but blackened ruins, and the sky is eerily quiet. This was Hiroshima, August 6th, 1945. Just a few hours earlier, it was a thriving city, but in an instant, over 140,000 people were erased. A single bomb dropped from the sky, shaped by human hands, designed with one purpose: destruction. And this was only one moment in mankind's bloodiest history. In 2013, a study by the Peace Research Institute Oslo attempted to count the total number of lives lost to war throughout human history. The estimate: over 150 million lives. This number, while staggering, only scratches the surface of the suffering, destruction, and devastation that wars have unleashed upon the world. Millions of lives lost, cities reduced to ruins, and generations left to deal with the aftermath of our brutality. It's a history that is soaked in blood. Today we explore the darkest pages of human history, an era marked by bloodshed, conflict, and the haunting lessons we never seem to learn. Imagine a world where the only law is strength, where the land you stand on can be taken at any moment by an enemy with more soldiers, more weapons, and no mercy. This was life in ancient times. The first war ever recorded, fought between the cities of Lagash and Umma in Mesopotamia. It was a fight for survival. Over a strip of fertile land, thousands would lose their lives. To us, it might seem distant, almost impossible to comprehend, but for those who lived through it, this was everything. The ground beneath them, soaked with blood, was all that mattered. Cities were burned, people enslaved, and lives destroyed, just for a piece of earth. And so, the first war was written in the dust of ancient history, but it wouldn't be the last. The centuries marched on, and so did the armies. In 1274 BCE, at the Battle of Kadesh, the mighty Egyptian pharaoh Ramses II faced off against the Hittites in one of the largest chariot battles ever fought. Imagine thousands of chariots thundering towards each other, men screaming as they crash into battle. Yet, despite the chaos, was no clear winner. Both sides retreated, licking their wounds. How many died that day, never to be remembered? How many families lost sons, fathers, brothers, just to fight for a king's pride? But the fighting didn't end. The Peloponnesian War, a bitter conflict between Athens and Sparta, saw over 100,000 people perish. And for what? Power, dominance, and the belief that one city-state could outlast another. The bodies of fallen soldiers lay strewn across the battlefield, while the cities they fought for crumbled into ruin. When we look at these ruins today, we see history, but for those who lived through it, this was everything. Their homes, their families, their futures, all taken in the name of war. Entire civilizations were reduced to rubble, all because the desire for more land, more power, outweighed the value of human life. My dear fellows, now imagine the sound of thunder, not from the sky, but from the ground, the earth itself trembling beneath the weight of an army unlike anything the world had ever seen. The Mongol horde, led by Genghis Khan, swept across Asia and into Europe with a force so fierce, so terrifying, that entire cities fell to their knees without a fight. For those who faced the Mongols, there was no escape. Some cities chose surrender, hoping for mercy. Others tried to resist, but resistance came at a heavy price. Genghis Khan didn't just defeat his enemies, he erased them. Cities were leveled, entire populations slaughtered. It's estimated that over 40 million people died during the Mongol conquests. 40 million. Can you imagine? That's the population of entire countries wiped off the map. Their names, their cultures, their histories, gone. And yet in the eyes of Genghis Khan, this wasn't cruelty. It was strategy. He believed that fear was his greatest weapon, and he wielded it with brutal efficiency. His goal wasn't just to win, it was to make sure no one would ever challenge him again. By the time his empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to Eastern Europe, he had reshaped the world in his image, a world of power, built on the ashes of those who stood in his way. But at what cost? Behind every victory was unimaginable suffering, pain that echoed through generations, millions dead, cultures erased, and cities that would never rise again. The Mongol conquests left behind more than just destruction. They left a scar on human history, a reminder of the depths of violence we are capable of. But at what cost? It was called the War to End All Wars, but no one could have imagined the horror that lay ahead. World War I, a conflict unlike anything the world had ever seen, dragged entire nations into chaos. Men who thought they'd be home by Christmas found themselves trapped in the mud, watching their friends and brothers fall one by one. Over 16 million lives were lost. 16 million. Each one a father, a son, a husband, gone, swallowed by the brutal machinery of modern warfare. Trenches stretched for miles, but the distance between hope and despair was much shorter. Gas, machine guns, tanks, new inventions designed to kill faster, more efficiently, turning the battlefield into a slaughterhouse. And for what? The lines barely moved. Thousands died for inches of ground that would be lost again in the next offensive. The pain of those years still haunts us. A generation wiped out in a conflict that promised peace, but delivered only death. But it wasn't the end. Barely 2 decades later, the world would be plunged into a new nightmare. World War II. This time, the death toll would be even higher. Over 70 million people gone. Cities were no longer just battlefields. They became targets. Bombs rained down from the sky, turning homes, schools, and hospitals into ashes. And then came Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In a matter of seconds, entire cities were vaporized by nuclear fire. Tens of thousands of people, many of them civilians, disappeared in the blink of an eye. Their shadows burned into the ground. The world had crossed a line. We had unlocked the power to destroy not just armies, but entire populations. For those who survived, the pain didn't end when the bombs stopped falling. The scars, both physical and emotional, would last a lifetime. Families torn apart, children left orphaned, and entire communities erased. The world watched in horror as the true cost of war was revealed, not just in the number of lives lost, but in the destruction of everything that made life worth living. 70 million lives, each one a story cut short, each one a family left behind, waiting for a knock on the door that would bring news no one wanted to hear. War didn't just take lives, it stole futures, dreams, and the chance to live in a world where peace was more than just a distant hope. World War I was meant to be the end of all wars. World War II was meant to teach us the true cost of conflict. But have we really learned? 70 million lives, gone in the blink of an eye, lost to the greed, hatred, and violence that continue to plague us to this day. The world wars left a scar so deep it's carved into our collective memory. The pain, the suffering, the unspeakable loss, it's all there, waiting for us to remember, waiting for us to learn. But have we? Or are we doomed to repeat history over and over again? The wars of the past may feel distant, lost to the pages of history books. But the truth is, war never left us. It's here now, closer than we want to admit. The scars of modern conflict are all around us. Cities turned to dust, families torn apart, and lives shattered in an instant. The blood of ancient warriors has been replaced by the silent hum of drones, the push of a button, and the devastation that follows. In places like Palestine, Syria, Afghanistan, and Yemen, war is not just a distant memory, it's a daily reality. Children born into conflict, growing up knowing nothing but the sound of bombs, the sight of buildings collapsing, and the fear that at any moment everything they know could be gone. Can you imagine growing up with the sound of explosions instead of laughter? Modern warfare is no longer about vast armies clashing on battlefields. It's fought in neighborhoods, in homes, in places where civilians once felt safe. Hospitals, schools, markets. These are the new battlegrounds. The lines between soldier, civilian blur, and in the crossfire, it's the innocent who suffer the most. Mothers bury their children. Children grow up as orphans, knowing only loss, only pain. And then there are the millions who flee, escaping one hell only to find themselves in another. Refugees displaced from their homes wander the earth with no place to go. Some find temporary shelter in camps, but others never escape the trauma. Entire generations grow up stateless, their identities erased by war. They become ghosts, lost to a world that's too busy to notice. For every bomb that drops, there's a family left broken. A father who never comes home, a mother who can't find her children. The pain of war doesn't end when the fighting stops. It lingers, passed down through generations. A child who loses a parent in war grows up with that hole in their heart, a hole that nothing can fill. That's the true cost of modern conflict, the lives lost, yes, but also the lives that are forever haunted by what was taken from them. And yet we keep fighting, from the jungles of Vietnam to the deserts of Iraq, from the streets of Sarajevo to the hills of Rwanda. The pattern repeats. Wars fought over power, ideology, resources, none of them ever truly ending, only leaving behind devastation. And the question echoes louder with every passing year. Why haven't we learned? Even for those who survive, the war follows them home. Soldiers return with wounds that go far beyond the physical, wounds that no amount of medals or parades can heal. Post-traumatic stress, survivor's guilt, the weight of knowing that while they lived, so many others did not. They wake up at night, drenched in sweat, reliving the worst moments over and over again. There's no escaping the pain. My dear fellows, why after centuries of destruction do we continue to wage war? History is supposed to be our teacher, but time and time again we've ignored its lessons. From the Crusades to the modern day, humans have proven that our capacity for violence is as limitless as our capacity for innovation. We've built machines capable of traveling to the moon, yet we've also created weapons capable of destroying the earth. It seems that the more advanced we become, the more destructive our wars. Think about it. The bow and arrow became the rifle, the cannon became the nuclear missile, and now we have weapons that could end humanity in mere minutes. But here's the most tragic part. War isn't inevitable, it's a choice made by those in power, but paid for by the innocent. Will we ever break this cycle? Will we ever learn that the cost of war is far greater than any political gain or ideological victory? Perhaps that's the real question humanity must answer, because if we don't, we may just be walking toward a future where there's nothing left to destroy. The bloodiest history of mankind is still being written.